So we're going to continue on now with the subject of this week's discussion, which is really to do with navigation apps. And we're delighted to talk to a certified orientation and mobility specialist, qualified access consultant, our very own Chantal Smith. You're very welcome to the show, Chantal.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you with us. Now, you've been with NCBI since last March 2019, and you've been working as a rehab instructor at the National Training Centre in Drumcondra. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what does that involve?
So at the National Training Centre in Drumcondra, I'm working primarily with working age adults, building confidence and independence in both their orientation and mobility skills and independent living skills before they move on to further education and employment. Okay,
very good. So broadly speaking, we're kind of just talking about navigation apps today. We're kind of hoping to have a chat about a few different navigation tools that we can use. But why is technology of use in a mobility setting? What sort of things can it help a person to do?
It's designed to provide additional information to individuals when they're moving. So commonly you would see people using electronic travel aids to detect obstacles and determine a clear path of travel beyond the length of the cane. People would also be using GPS and map apps like Google Maps and Lazarillo to find their way, and there is also some great public transport apps available as well, and they can provide real-time information on services.
Brilliant. So there's kind of a range of different technology applications when it comes to mobility. I know one of the pieces of technology that's quite an exciting one, we mentioned it just in the intro there, is Soundscape. Can you tell us a little bit about what Soundscape is?
Yeah, Microsoft Soundscape is an app that essentially delivers a map in 3D sound. So it's using innovative audio-based technology to enable people, particularly those that are blind or have low vision, to build a richer awareness of their surroundings so that they become more confident and empowered to get around their local community. So it's unlike the traditional step-by-step navigation apps. So it's using 3D audio cues to enrich ambient awareness and providing a new way for people to relate to their environment. So basically, yeah, it's basically building a mental map and giving people the ability to personalize their routes or become more comfortable, I guess, with navigating in unfamiliar spaces.
Okay, that sounds really interesting. It might be kind of hard just to get our heads around exactly what that means, but that sounds really interesting. It might be good for us just to be able to have a listen to the sort of feedback that we get with Soundscape. And actually we should have a video ready, I think, that will help us to do that. We've got a short video that'll just help us to have an idea of the sort of feedback that we get with Soundscape. So we'll go ahead and play that if we can.
Hi, we are here today to talk about the Microsoft Soundscape app, which is an application that allows anyone with low vision or visual impairment to be able to have mobility and independence. And to help me do that, I have Amos Miller with me to really give us a real demo of this application. Amos, do you want to describe Soundscape?
Soundscape is really cool. Okay? Using a stereo headset, it lets a person who's blind or low vision hear where the landmarks are around them in 3D. And in this way, they can build a richer awareness of their surroundings and feel more independent and confident to explore the world beyond what they know.
That's pretty cool. So it's kind of like it paints what's around you in sound.
That's exactly what it does. Shall we try it out?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. So you have the headset on.
Yes, I have the headset.
And you'll start by pressing around me and just listen to where the landmarks are and tell me where you're hearing them.
Around you. Park 295 feet. Microsoft building 34,
wow, that's pretty
295
awesome.
feet. Microsoft
Okay,
building,
it's all around the
13,255
landmarks.
feet.
Soundscape effectively
Around 160
takes
feet.
the same map that you have running on the phone and plays it in 3D sound. Isn't that cool?
That is so awesome. That's so awesome. So yeah, it just described everything around me, and I was able to sort of navigate, and get in this case, my gaze to all of those places.
And get your orientation. So I think that you need to make your way to building 34. Shall we do that?
So shall we try with this? Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
absolutely. With Soundscape, instead of turn-by-turn instructions, we will place an audio beacon on building 34 so we can hear where it is.
Got it.
Okay.
So this app knows how to rendezvous with that beacon.
Exactly. So
Okay.
we'll set the beacon.
Okay.
Okay, there's a button to
And
set
so
the
should
beacon.
I also do the same?
Yeah, do exactly the same. And
Yeah.
on the top of the list, you'll see building 34
Yeah.
access ramps.
I'll do
There's
that.
access ramp,
Yeah.
Beacon 285
Okay.
feet.
access ramp. And on your right ear, you'll start hearing a clicking sound.
Oh.
Can you hear that?
I got it. So it doesn't give you directions, but it kind of gives you the sound
So
impulse.
before you walk, hold
Yeah.
on, you're walking already. Let's turn towards the way you're hearing the beacon.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's completely centered, and you hear a bell sound that tells you we are pointing at building 34. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, of course, we can't walk. There's a road on the way.
That's
so,
correct.
So let's walk along the road and find a place to turn right.
Okay.
All right, let's go. Straight on. You can hear the beacon on your right as
Yeah.
we walk along here.
So I know that I'll have to at some point turn right.
That's right.
Marker.
Straight
Amos's
on.
bus stop.
Good boy.
It says Amos's bus stop. So that's basically telling me this is your bus stop?
This is a bus stop that I placed with Soundscape. You can place
Yeah.
a marker on anything you care about.
That's cool. So it
All
just
right.
told me that I'm right there.
And it's also, so it helps me personalize my mental map of the space,
Right.
but also gives me a cue that we are getting close to the intersection because I know.
Correct.
this.
Because you know that this beacon
Yeah.
was there before.
So it's a landmark for
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Okay. So I'll start cueing the dog to find a
Approaching
crossing.
intersection. Service road.
Ever
Good
find a
left.
crossing? You might have received
159th
Yeah,
Avenue
and in
North.
fact, I got
intersection
it.
announcements.
Yeah.
Service
Okay,
road.
so
Goes
find the
right.
crossing. So you really work together with the app as well as the dog in this case. Are
Yeah.
we safe to cross?
Yes, we are.
Ever forward. And now,
Crossing.
as the beacon straightens
so
up
cool.
right in front of us, you should be able to hear the beacon right in front, which tells us that we are walking in a straight line towards our destination.
Yes.
Towards,
Crossing.
Yeah, it's
The
not-
ramp.
Oh, yeah.
there's a crossing to our left.
Parking lot.
We're now entering a parking lot. The interesting thing about a parking lot, Satya, is that you have very little to work with
Yeah.
when you navigate. So
That's
the
right.
beacon really plays an important role to help you keep
Help you
your
keep
orientation.
Orientation, yeah.
Yeah, this is very effective in open areas.
But the interesting thing here is this can be useful for anybody who's in a new space, even if you're fully sighted.
That's right. This is inclusive design in action.
Correct. Yeah, because as you said, you land up in a parking lot or you land up in a campus that you
Yeah.
don't know anything about. And
You just
obviously
place
our
the beacon.
campus, our buildings are not numbered in sequence. Very helpful.
Marker. Building
Yeah.
34.
Good boy, Trevor.
Access.
And we are at the access ramp.
That's right.
Good boy,
That's
Trevor.
awesome.
Boy.
That is really awesome.
Fantastic. That
Thank you
works
so
well.
much, Amos. This is such a wonderful work. Where can people go get this app?
There are thousands of people out there enjoying the outdoors with Soundscape every day, and it's just wonderful to see that happening. People can get the app for free on the iOS App Store in the US, in the UK, in Australia, and we're working to get it to other countries as well.
It's awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And it's such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Very good. So that's maybe a little bit of an idea of how the Soundscape app works, and it sounds really useful, Chantal. I have to say, as you're listening to that, you're getting really good feedback. There was one kind of clear example that was given there of navigating to a particular space, but can you give us a bit more of an idea of just when would this be useful? When would this app be useful?
Yeah, so there's plenty of scenarios where it would be helpful. It's got so many features and benefits. It can certainly be used on a case-by-case basis where you have a specific information need. So that might be keeping track of a destination as you make your way there, helping to orient yourself when you emerge from a train station. It could mean getting your bearings when exiting a taxi or finding the street names for the next intersection. but it's also designed to be used anytime you're out and about, to provide that ambient awareness of your surroundings, such as keeping you aware of the name of the streets you're on, the direction you're heading, and the name of businesses that you're passing. So when you've got those automatic call outs on and you're in this mode, service users have referred to Soundscape as a nice companion app. So it's basically just filling in the gaps in your mental map and providing more confidence when walking.
Okay, so that sounds, maybe the first part of that sort of sounds quite like GPS and map apps, but there is a bit of a difference there from what you were saying towards the end. It's kind of helping more with mental mapping.
Yeah, so the big difference is that the other GPS or map apps would be using turn-by-turn directions, and Soundscape plays this audible beacon in the direction of your destination. So it's empowering you to make your way there on your own terms. So increasing your awareness of your surroundings and the location of your destination. It can be designed to run in the background, so you can still use those turn-by-turn directional apps.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can use the two of them running together simultaneously.
Yeah, you can. So Soundscape is designed as an awareness app, so helping fill in the details about your environment that you might not have already been or otherwise been aware of. So what you can do is you can use Soundscape to provide complementary information. And to do this, you can start your navigation app first and then move over to Soundscape. And by setting a beacon on the same destination as in the navigation app, they can both be running together. So you'll hear walking directions from your navigation app whilst getting updates on points of interest, intersections, and your distance to your destination from Soundscape.
Very good. And how easy is it actually to use? Like, are there specific buttons for navigation, or are there specific things that take a little bit of learning with it, or is it fairly intuitive?
It can be fairly intuitive, but I'd say there's huge value in getting some training from a mobility instructor in how to use this particular app. The home screen has 10 buttons that you could use, but there's 4 that are primarily used with orientation. The first is the My Location button. So it gives you information really quickly to help you figure out where you are. It announces current location, including things like the direction you're facing. So it's basically a compass, where nearby roads or intersections are and where nearby points of interest are.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got there's a couple of other buttons as well in terms of your orientation. So there's the Ahead of Me button. So it gives you 5 things that would be ahead of you and is intended to help you explore the way ahead of yourself when you're learning about a new area, or to discover things that are coming up on either side of the street. So sometimes, like if you were doing training with a mobility instructor, for safety reasons, they might only teach you up one side of the street, and you may never actually be aware that there's a really good coffee shop on the other side of the street.
Yeah, that sounds really useful. And you were saying there that it will read out to you 5 things that are ahead of you. Is that what you were saying? Is that a set kind of number of things that were ahead of you, and are they pre-programmed by the user?
No, so they're not pre-programmed by the user. They're most likely going to be the 5 things that are, I guess, markers or businesses that are ahead of you. So it might say that there's a coffee shop on your left, and then it might say that there's an intersection coming up in 150 metres, and then it might mention a medical centre and a few other points of interest.
Very good. That sounds really, really practical, and it is great when it's something that has the capacity to work along with other software as well, so such as your maps or your other navigation devices. Does it have a bit of an issue when it comes to, let's say a user is using the Voiceover or the Android equivalent, for example. By the way, is this available on Android? Is it available only on iPhone?
Yeah, so at the moment it's only available on Apple iOS and it runs on iPhone 5S or later. Android isn't available, unfortunately, and we have, not just myself, but lots of other mobility instructors have raised with Microsoft that it would be fantastic to have it on Android. But at this point, it doesn't look likely to change in the immediate future.
Okay, so we're talking about the iPhone then in that case. So if we're talking about VoiceOver playing in the background, somebody's using VoiceOver, will there be a problem with using Soundscape and VoiceOver?
There won't be a problem, but it can affect Soundscape's behaviour. So yes, there'll be three things that I would mention. One is VoiceOver tips. So when VoiceOver tips are turned on, you would hear more information about all the buttons on the primary Soundscape screen. You can turn on VoiceOver tips by navigating through your iPhone settings, or turn it off, sorry. The other two behaviours that might be affected because of VoiceOver would be audio ducking. So it's designed to work with audio ducking turned off. So automatic call-outs can be difficult to hear if VoiceOver is used simultaneously. Again, that can be turned off in VoiceOver settings. And the final one would be your Touch ID to unlock, and this is particularly important with mobility. So setting your phone to unlock using Touch ID will make unlocking the phone fast and easy, so that you can access those navigation apps that we were talking about. So my location, around me, and the ahead of me buttons. So when you're on the go, that happens as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Okay, very good. And when you're on the go, and as you were saying, it happens as quickly as possible, is that relying on like mobile data when you're out and about?
It does use mobile data, but it depends on how you're using Soundscape. So Microsoft Soundscape has designed it to be used and only use a small amount of data when you are out and about doing things like saving points of interest. And so you don't need to download them again every single time when you go back to a place. But you can reduce the amount of mobile data it uses. So being connected to Wi-Fi wherever possible, you can download the app in New Voices on Wi-Fi as well. And when you are not using Soundscape, you can force closure of the app, so it's not using mobile data as well.
Okay, so it's not kind of a majorly kind of intensive thing. It wouldn't be a major concern for somebody if they're thinking about a limited mobile data package.
Not at all.
Very good. And we just noticed on the video there where we had a bit of a sense of the way that Soundscape works. There's a particular kind of headset there. Do you need a particular headset to use with Soundscape, or can you use headphones, or what way does that work?
So basically, as a matter of personal preference, each option will come with its benefits and trade-offs. The only real specific requirement with Soundscape is to use a pair of stereo headphones so that you can take advantage of that 3D spatial audio callouts. As an O&M, I would be using or recommending the bone conduction headphones to enable individuals to still hear that really important environmental and safety information as they travel. An example that we would recommend at NCBI would be the Aftershocks bone conduction headphones. Microsoft also has another option, which has recently been announced, and that's a partnership with Bose. So the app's now supporting audio augmented reality headsets with their newly released Bose frames, and basically these allow you to put your phone away in your bag and enjoy a hands-free experience.
Very good. Okay, so it is useful just to kind of know as well that you are able to use it with various kind of setups, but that's the recommendation anyway from NCBI would be to use the bone conductive headphones.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The Bose frames are really cool. They've got neat technology hidden inside them, and I guess it's pretty impressive in terms of 3D audio environments. And but yeah, anything that's bone conducting is going to do the trick and make sure someone's nice and safe if they're moving while using the app.
Brilliant, very good. That app is definitely going to be something that's of interest to people. Is that something that's available at the moment that people can actually use at the moment?
Unfortunately, not in Ireland. We've and you heard a little bit from Amos at the end of that video clip. We're working really hard on bringing Soundscape to Ireland at the moment. It's only available in the UK, US, Australia, Canada and Sweden. However, they are starting to roll it out in countries in the EU this summer, and I'm working with the team at Microsoft Soundscape to release the app here before the end of the year. Fingers crossed. Yeah. And I say fingers crossed because unfortunately the trial of the app in Ireland had to be pushed out due to COVID-19. And so we don't have a specific date at this time, but that might change when the lifting of restrictions occurs.
Well, it's kind of good even for us to be able to have a good preview of something before it's available, because it's something to keep an eye on then when it is released. We know about it already and we can see the benefits of it already. So that's really good. Just one other question in relation to Soundscape in particular, but it kind of applies to various different technology. Is this basically all that you'd need? Does it replace a cane? Does it replace guide dogs? Does it, you know, is it a one-stop shop in terms of you wouldn't need anything else?
No, it's not a one-stop shop. We always need our primary mobility aid. So basically, our primary mobility aid is designed or is by design is used to identify or negate hazards, ensuring the safety of the user. So they're offering vital protection and wayfinding information at ground level, which is what's really crucial. And they also are effective in all weather conditions. So you've got different examples of primary mobility aids. So that'd be like your long cane, symbol cane, support cane and dog guide. Your secondary ones, like Soundscape, what we're talking about, would be used in conjunction with that primary mobility aid. And they absolutely, like Soundscape and all of the other secondary mobility aids that we're going to talk about, absolutely cannot detect drop-offs. So it's really important to note that.
Okay, very good. You mentioned there some of the other things that we'll talk about. Some of the other things as well will have a particular relationship to the situation we find ourselves in at the moment with COVID-19 and things like that. Has there been a particular impact that you've noticed in your work as to the way that people move, the actual mobility relevance of what's happening at the moment, specifically related maybe to sighted guide or social distancing and things like that?
Yeah, the developments of COVID-19 have highlighted a number of areas of concern for people with sight loss. In particular, the tactile manner in which they access public places and use sighted guide. They would be the two big things. I can recommend some practical strategies to mitigate the impact of COVID-19, but they are really valuable ongoingly. There's been lots of conversation in recent times with service users saying that these issues have always been present, and really the risk has always been there, but it's just been exacerbated by this new threat. So people that I'd be working with in orientation and mobility rely on touch to move around and contact the environment to live their lives fully. So that really does, like, independent travel requires people to be touching handrails. It requires people touching escalators, tactile audio buttons at traffic lights. and even braille signage on doors at toilets and lifts.
Yeah, so that presents a particular challenge then. Is there any way that any of the tech solutions that are out there can help with that?
Yes, so you've got particular sighted guided strategies, or there's technology that we can mention here today as well. It does rely on good independent travel skills as well, so I'll point that out. But one fantastic option is the Be My Eyes app. So that's, I think it's been mentioned before, but is used to call a volunteer who provides support via video call. So this is particularly relevant at the moment because a lot of businesses have got new ways of moving through the entrance, and they might have signage that's inaccessible as well. So you can use a volunteer via the Be My Eyes app to help you find out that information in real time.
That's a brilliant application. Yeah, that's a brilliant application of that. We have spoken about that on the show before, and it is quite a popular one, but I think it's always useful for people to hear kind of another application of an app that they might already be using. So that's a really useful way to use that particular app. Any other technology kind of fixes, or not necessarily fixes, but things just to help somebody in the current situation?
Yeah, there's probably two other things I'd mention. One was that for Android users that popped up on my radar last week is the SODAR app. So that's SODAR, and it creates an augmented reality 2-meter radius ring around you, and it works in a similar way to your electronic travel aids. So you're able to maintain that social distance because you're getting the feedback about how close someone is to you. And if people do have access to their own electronic travel aids already, they might be able to try adjusting the distance settings so they're aware when a solid object such as a person moves into their space. So for people that are advanced users of electronic travel aids, they're particularly helpful for managing queues. So if you're waiting in line for coffee, you're able to maintain that 2 meters as people move forward, or when you reach the counter, you're able to make sure you don't get too close to the customer service person.
Really useful, yeah, very good. And you mentioned before, was it SODAR? SODAR?
Yes.
Yeah, very good, because there'll be people wanting to maybe take a note of some of the things that are being mentioned there. That's really good.
Yeah.
Now, I think we might have had one or two comments or questions come in. Daniel, have we one or two?
We do. Our Q&A panel has been a little bit active. Chantal, thanks very much for everything you've gone through so far. It's very, very informative. And just two questions here. First of all, with a user who has wrote in that they're almost totally blind, but they do have a restrictive balance, and they use a walker that they pull from behind. So how would Soundscape perhaps work for somebody in that situation?
Good question. You would still, you can use Soundscape and not hold on to it. So when you're finding out points of interest, it does help to hold the phone in your hand with the screen up, so that the compass can work effectively. But it is also designed so that you can put it away and have that hands-free experience, so people can concentrate on their primary mobility aids and get around their how they normally would, because we don't want to be it comes back to that whole primary mobility aid and secondary mobility aids only like complementing what you're already doing.
Yeah. So I suppose the takeaway point is that the app is can be used hands-free, which you know, it's not going to be very intrusive on your journey, I guess.
Yeah, as long as someone has the cognitive ability to be able to process the information about what's going on in their environment and take on board that extra information from the app, there shouldn't be a problem. And that's why we do recommend when someone is starting to use an app like Soundscape, that they do get in contact with a mobility instructor just to make sure that they are confident and it's not going to result in falls or have them concentrating on something that's not relevant to their safety.
Very good. Very good. Final question. You mentioned about Bose earphones there a few moments ago, and just somebody inquiring roughly how much would it cost? A guide price.
For, sorry, Soundscape?
No, for the earphones, the Bose earphones.
Good question. I don't know off the top of my head. Microsoft Soundscape has given us a pair to trial. I think they were maybe just shy of 200 euro, but I can confirm,
a rough guide price.
I can confirm that for next week's review. That's not a problem.
Yeah, so we might touch on that next week. Every week when we start our show, we actually now reflect back on the previous week's covering, so maybe we might get an answer for there. I think that's everything in the lines of questions there at the moment. I don't see anything coming in on our labs at ncbi.ie there at the moment. So back to you, Jude.
Very good. Thank you very much, Daniel. So, Chantal, that's been brilliant just to talk about those few things. Maybe just as a kind of a final comment on it, what would your kind of takeaway message be if somebody is maybe struggling with mobility at the moment? Obviously, we're talking about tech at the moment, and maybe some people might be very into tech. They're quite happy to try something new. Maybe somebody isn't very much into technology and new kind of devices. What would your kind of takeaway point be in terms of the benefit that you can get from some of these devices?
Well, look, all of these devices are very, very helpful with mobility, and they're going to give you a whole heap of extra information that helps you be more graceful in your movement, more independent, and just give you that general confidence to get out and about at a very difficult time. I would say that if you're interested in technology, even if you're not particularly confident with it, to get in touch with your mobility instructor locally, because they're going to be able to give you the support and strategies to be able to use technology like Soundscape really effectively. And yeah, I guess the other point would be is that now would be the right time as well to get in touch with your mobility instructors just for refresher cane training as well, because people have been not getting out as much as they previously had because of COVID-19. Yeah,
very good. That's an important reminder. So the mobility officers are always happy to help, and of course the NCBI labs can always help out in terms of any technical difficulties that people have as well. So really appreciate you coming in to talk to us about the different technology that is helpful for both mobility and navigation, Chantal. We appreciate you sharing that information with us. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.